Now, I know some of you are looking at me and saying, well, that's pretty obvious. All right? I'm a member of a certain ethnic group. I'm a member of a certain race. And I happen to live in America. So I guess that would qualify as being an African American. But my story is a little bit different because I am literally an African American. See, my parents were born in Tanzania, in East Africa. Tanzania is the land of Kilimanjaro and Serengeti. If you ever watch a nature show, you see those wildebeest running around. It's right next door to Kenya, where President Obama's father is from. Tanzania and Kenya are like North Carolina, South Carolina, or New York and New Jersey. They're neighbors. And my parents are both from there. So if you were to redefine what I said at the beginning, I guess you could say I'm a black man with African roots. But my story goes a little bit further because I was born in Britain. Now, how that came about was the Brits were the Tanzania was a colony of Britain from World War I. It used to be a colony of Germany before World War I. After World War I, it became a British colony. And what the Brits used to do is they'd give standardized tests throughout the country, like SAT tests. And whoever scored highest on these tests would get a chance to go to Europe and study, all over Britain. And my father was lucky enough or smart enough, I guess, to win one of these scholarships. So he ended up going to Scotland, and he used to show us pictures of him wearing a kilt. He ended up going to Wales and working in the coal mines in Wales for a while. And he spent a couple years in Ireland. He really liked Ireland. He said he almost failed out of school because he liked Ireland a little too much. And round about that time, I ended up coming along. So, going back to my timeline again, you could say I'm a black man with African roots who was born in Britain. And the American part of the story comes in when, at 4 years old, my dad got a job with the United Nations. So we packed up and we moved to New York City, where the UN headquarters are. We ended up smack dab in Queens, New York, and that's where I grew up. So I was raised in Queens, New York. I grew up as a typical American kid. I loved baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet, just like the commercial says. Thank you very much. I was in CYO. I played Little League. I rooted for the Mets and the Giants and the Knicks. Graduated high school and went to Syracuse University. So I grew up as a straight 100% New Yorker. So I guess the question would be, what would be the moral of my story? I think there's two morals. One is that we have to be very careful in how we label things. As human beings, we tend to hear a piece of information, and just like computers, we put it in a folder, we file it away, and every time you hear some new information, you kind of go back to the folder, open it up, and say, oh yeah, this is what I think I know about this situation. But I think my situation shows that you cannot be quick to label based on what you hear. Okay? If you hear something about a person, a place, or a thing, you have to be open enough to say, well, tell me a little bit more so I can open up my mind a little bit. And the second part, the second moral of my story would be, I think it illustrates just how great a country this is. I mean, our country is a great country. And the fact that I grew up in a melting pot is a testament to how great America is. I mean, I doubt if there's anybody in this room who's all one thing or another. We're all a mixture of different stuff. Okay, I always laugh when people say, well, I'm a quarter Italian and a quarter German and a quarter Mexican and an eighth Native American and a quarter Asian on my mother's side. That always cracks me up. But you find that in America, and we shouldn't take that for granted. I think it's a great thing, and I'm a perfect illustration of that. I mean, where else are you going to find a black man who was born in Britain, with African roots, who became a New Yorker, and now lives in Charlotte, North Carolina? You can't make this stuff up. And that's my icebreaker story, and I'm sticking to it.